amazing grace of God. It is an invasion of the sovereign love of God, penetrating the gap of darkness with the overwhelming power of His marvelous light. It bridges the gap between man and God. Take a journey through the amazing grace of God with your host, Sarah Abraham, as she shares the compelling stories of those who walked in His covenant and have overcome by the amazing grace of God. Join us weekdays this fall for Amazing Grace with Sarah Abraham.
Welcome to Amazing Grace. I'm your host, Sarah Abraham. All of us at Destiny TV, we welcome you. God's amazing grace is all we need. No matter what the situations we are going through, what the devil throws at you, His grace is sufficient to bring us through. And every guest that we have on this show, will say the same thing. How God's grace has brought them from down there to up here. How are they walking? We have such an amazing guest with us today. Producer, director, writer, James Hudson.
Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I've had movie producers, I've had actors, but I've never had one who could do everything.
Writer, director, and
Right,
actor.
and probably you can act too.
Yes,
See? So tell us, how did you come into acknowledge all these gifts that you have?
Well, I've been writing and directing plays actually now for over 20 years. And actually I got my start, I was working at Richmond State School for the mental retarded, actually. And there was a lady there, Reba McIntyre Kindred was her name. She was a writer and director. And she heard me do a speech on a Black History program that we were having at the school. And she asked me, hey, how would you like to be in one of my plays? And I'm like, I've never been in a play before, but I thought it was very interesting. So I said, I'll give that a shot. And then, to make a long story short, I just fell in love with the stage. And we just traveled around different places, Richmond, Rosenberg, Houston, putting on plays for schools and civic organizations and churches, and I was hooked from day one.
See, that is one form of creative art that people can understand. You don't have to read, you don't have to write, you don't have to think.
Right.
You just enjoy it, and the message kind of stays with you.
Yeah, what we really find is that people can identify with what they can visually see,
yes.
and then, like you just said, if they can, if the subject matter is something that they can really attest to, they can say, I understand what that situation is all about.
Yes.
I've done conferences for men, husband and wives, marriage conferences, where people say, man, that situation that you guys went through, my husband and I, we're experiencing the exact same thing. I could have swore you were talking to my husband, And so when people can say those type of things to you, you know that in other words, the message is going across, and that's what we do. We use this is a ministry, and we use our gifts and talents to minister the word of God through drama presentations. We just make it live, make it to what people can really relate to what's going on the stage.
Wonderful. So you work with high schools?
I do most of my plays. I do in churches because they're gospel stage plays. But I work with high schools. I've just met with, matter of fact, some community and schools where I'm actually going to be going into some of the schools, middle schools and high schools, and working with some of the kids that have all this energy or whatever, and trying to show them how they can channel all that energy into something positive as opposed to something negative. So I'm really looking forward to that. But like I said, I've written over 35 plays that I have that's been produced and performed through the years. So and over 60 different skits that I've done with children. I've done all types of ministry, pretty much for any type of thing that you can think of.
So can somebody take your play and then perform it?
They can only take my play and perform it if I allow them to.
Of course.
Oh yeah. All of my plays are copyrighted, but yes, but most of my plays I take on myself.
Like a theater department in a school or something, and say if it
exactly
if it has a message of teen pregnancy or
right.
drugs or bullying or
Right,
whatever
right,
is.
exactly right. And I have those skits and plays like that we actually we've performed in schools before, and we've allowed them to utilize that as well as churches. You know, the big thing that's happening now out in the church community is that they're all getting these creative art ministries,
They do
whether
have the
praise
department,
dancing
yes.
and drama and because they're seeing how, you know, when you allow that ministry to take place in your church, people become very active in that. You know, children. I took a group of young children in a church, started off with like 6 kids, and put them out in front of the congregation by doing skits. And within a year's time, those 6 kids turned into almost 90 children from in the community,
Just the
that just because
community.
they wanted to be on that stage. Oh my God! Most parents are like, I can't believe that that's my son or my daughter. I can't believe you got them to do that. So. And then those children get a chance to see, hey, I can do something that's positive. You know, it could change their whole life, their whole attitude. You know, their self-esteem goes through the roof. Why? Because I'm the one that's performing. People are looking at me.
I'm center stage.
I'm center stage, exactly right. So, you know, we've been on a lot of TV programs. We've done a lot of newspapers and magazines and things that come out and see the production, and the kids end up in the paper and on magazines, and they're like, oh, wow, this is really neat.
good.
And so it really encourages them to really show them that they can
Boost
do
their
something.
self-esteem and confidence. And,
Exactly. It just goes through the roof. And it's just a wonderful thing to see.
you know, this title, Loose Lips Sink Ships. Tell me a little bit about that skit or drama.
That was the very first skit that I did, Loose Lips Sink Ships, and basically it was done in a church, and what we had this church setting where we had these women that were all gossipers in the church. They were gossiping and doing all this different. It was more of a comedy is really what it was, but it had a very serious message to it, and that's what it was all about. Either you can build a church up or you can tear it down, you know, through the words that come out of your mouth. As we were talking earlier, you know, the words that come out of your mouth, they can either be positive or they can be negative. They can either pick people up or they can bring them down. And so it's very important that we understand the words. People are listening, the power of words, because people are listening to what we're saying. And that's why it's so important, even when I write plays through the anointing, really, of the Holy Spirit, that you listen carefully to what does God want to say. That's my prayer whenever I write a play. What is it, Lord, that you would have me to say? Because He says, my word does not go out void. So I just want your word, and then that's how we're able to help families and help people, help marriages and help children. Why? Because we've connected with the Spirit of God, and that's a very, very powerful thing.
Yes, and like you said, now, you know, creative arts and theater and you know, acting
Praise,
is a big
dance, and the
part.
whole
Praise,
nine,
dancing. It's a whole, because the world has it, right?
Sure they are.
Why can't we have it?
And the thing about it is
It's a powerful medium.
It's a powerful medium. And when you allow people to do these things, this is what I found, they become better members in the church, more active. You know, they become more givers. So it's given. Why? Because they're involved. They're involved. Right. You're allowing them to utilize their gifts and their talents. You know, a lot of times we just go to church and you want to, you know, you hear the pastor give the sermon, okay, or then maybe the choir was saying, but there are so many people that have something to offer. And then when you allow them to offer those things, then they get excited about coming to church.
About being part of it.
I'm a part of what's going on. You know, this is the second Sunday we get to perform, or we get to do, and I'm telling you, I've seen these ministries firsthand, how they've grown and grown and grown when you allow those people that are sitting out there, that's a part of the body of Christ, to utilize those gifts and talents that He's given.
Amen. Amen.
When I, with the plays that I've done, I just did a play about 3 weeks ago with a group of children. It's called American Stepdaddy. It's about a man, he falls in love with a woman, and she has 9 children. Wow. And they're all gifted and talented. I had one little young man who just won the MLK oratory contest. He was a Hispanic kid, about 10 years old. His name's Richard Garza. And he just won that MLK, and he does this awesome MLK speech that he does. And we actually put him in the play where he did the speech, and then we had the kid that won it last year. He was in the, so all these kids are very gifted and talented. Yeah. And it's just an awesome.
It's just guiding them and
it
hooking
is.
up to the right, you know, where they are the best, using it.
Exactly. You're taking their talents and just tagging
Magnifying
into
it.
it. You're just tagging into it. So whether this kid can sing or whether he can dance, these kids were dancing in the play, they were singing, they were doing all just taking their gifts and talents and just connecting it all together. And I'm telling you, it's just an awesome thing to see.
And also, it's such a great tool for evangelizing.
It is.
You know, you can invite your friends, and it's pretty cool. You know, hey, they're having a play in our church. You want to come see, instead of saying, oh, you want to come and
to
see
church.
our pastor in the robes preaching.
And that's the whole point. Even when I do these plays, you know, I can invite my neighbors or friends or whatever. If I tell them I'm inviting them, if I'm inviting them to come to a play, they're, oh yeah, sure. But if I'm asking them to come to church, you know, it's very hard to do. But when they come to see the play and you have a godly message in it, then they get it. You say, oh my God, okay, you know that message I saw makes me rethink my relationship with God, and that's the whole point. You have to pull them. You have to reach people where they are. See, and so
Pastor John Osteen used to say, your message should percolate in their brain.
You're right, exactly
it's
right.
not just like when you make coffee in a percolator. He says you can first smell it.
Right.
Then you can smell stronger and stronger. Then you want to taste it.
Right.
So even after you finish the coffee, the smell is still there.
Right.
That's what Starbucks does. It just sprays the vents with the coffee
And
flavor.
You just follow your nose.
Follow your nose. You know, you walk through it and it says, oh, I want a cup of coffee.
Right.
The same way, the place says, I want to experience a little more of what they were saying.
Exactly
You just give them a little bit to entice them to come back.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. And again, like I said, you utilizing this gift. For example, we did a play about 2 years ago with a group of kids I did. And we put a snippet on YouTube, and we got a call from Oprah Winfrey. One of the little children that was in the play, she saw the little girl. This girl had an extraordinary memory. This child was only 6 years old, but she could memorize things just like that. And Oprah Winfrey said, that baby reminds me of myself when I used to be that did, because she said I could memorize things just like that. Then we had another little girl, only 8 years old. She was singing in the play, and the Rockets saw her. They called and said, we want this child. She sang the national anthem in front of 14,000 people at 8 years old. We had two other kids that were in the play, and we had the Apollo call. They said, not only do we want that little boy, we want that little girl too, and we're going to bring them down here and let them perform. And see, all of that came through what? Through just being in a play. From being in a place, because somebody gave them the opportunity to be on stage. If they had never been on stage, they would have never had those opportunities. Amen. I wish that somebody had given me an opportunity at 9 or 10-year-old to be on stage. I feel like
James, I'd be you just realize a little bit how you have changed people's destiny.
Sure.
You
tap into it, and those memories would change.
Them.
It would change their lives for forever. It's like those tennis shoes you were talking about earlier when somebody gave those Jordan shoes to that young man. Well, he'll never forget that. Well, that little girl would never forget being on Oprah. That other little girl would never forget singing for the Rockets, and see, and that now they're just singing. They're doing. Oh, you can't tell them.
You don't know who all will find them and where it would take them.
Exactly right. Just through that one experience, and that's the beauty of what I do. To tap into all these gifted and talented people. I've worked with artists all around the city of Houston, hundreds of them, and just to see them, because we film everything that we do, and they stick those plays on YouTube on the James Hudson and Showtime. People can go out and look at James Hudson Showtime Productions, and you'll see those on YouTube. You'll see a lot of those plays that's there for their viewing, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just everyday children or everyday adults that want to utilize their gifts, their talents. Because I think the worst thing that you could possibly have is people who are gifted and talented sitting in a congregation and not allow them to use it. That is not good.
You don't have a channel to express.
You have a channel to express, so why not allow them to do so?
Why not? That's what I'm thinking, especially this generation, they're so gifted and talented.
And if we don't offer them the opportunity, then the world will. See, that's the problem.
That's the other side.
That's the other side of it. That's the other side of it. And so that's the whole thing, to be able to, hey, I'd rather to grab you now and bring you into the church and let you express your feelings than to have to go outside and express it in the way that the world wants you to express it.
James, what is the title? Will a Man Rob God? What is this skit or play about?
Wow, will a man rob God? Will a man? That is also a comedy of a church that well, this pastor, no can do no wrong type of pastor,
Oh, he knows.
and everybody
Mr.
follows him.
Right.
He's Mr. Right, and he takes up like 6 or 7 offerings, and and he just does everything. But in the end, there's always a message to it in the end. But will a man rob God? Well, because this pastor is taking money, and they're all giving him money, and he's just taking it. Oh my God, he just got it going on. But
God's blessing me. God's blessing me.
God's
yes.
blessing me. Yeah, God is blessing me. God is blessing. Will a man rob God? Because the Bible tells us about bringing our tithes and our offering, and so people need to get that right. Once I've given my tithes, once I've given my offering, I've done what God has asked me to do. Now, once I give it, whoever's in charge of it, that's on them. But I'm not going to let you stop my blessings, and that's what that play is all about. I'm going to still give because I'm here. As long as I'm a part of this body of the church, I'm going to do what God has told me to do, which is to give, to bring my tithes, to bring my
But
offering.
you still have to be diligent.
Well, sure, you have to be diligent.
You
Sure,
have
you
to
do.
be diligent. Just like you plant the seeds. If a seed needs a moist soil, you
Right.
cannot plant it in a rock.
Right, exactly right.
Or if it's a cactus,
Right.
you cannot plant in a rainy or a soil and water it every day. You'll
Right,
kill it.
right.
The same way, God has given us wisdom.
He's given us
God
wisdom.
has given us
That's why I said
intelligence.
that's why I'm saying if you choose, you're going to be a part of this, because again, before I'm a part of anything, I'm going to check it out.
That's
Especially
right.
if it's the leader of my spiritual life. I'm going to check this pastor out and have a feel for him myself. I'm going to keep an open eye.
That's
I'm going
right.
to keep an open mind and use my common sense. Is basically what you're saying. You have to have common sense now, and therefore, just like anyone else, I'm going to look. I'm going to respect my pastor, but I'm going to feel him out, so to
That's
speak.
right.
Yeah, have
or
to.
you see if something is
Not
not
right,
right. They're
not
not
right.
using the money
In the way that it should be.
It
right.
should be
Yeah.
used.
And then I know that's not the place for me to be.
For me to
it's not to be,
plant.
because I don't want to miss out on my own blessings. So I'm
That's
going to go
right.
somewhere where I can see
You know,
the
where,
needs are
you know,
being
I
met.
want 104 blessings.
Right, exactly
So I
right.
have to plant it right. I have to put the seed
That's right.
in the right soil.
That's true, very much.
And you are a recipient of so many awards. So many.
Yeah, I have a Jefferson Award from Channel 13. I do a lot of community outreach. I work with the disabled. Every first Saturday of the month, I work with Reach Out and Touch Ministries, where we give out 10,000 pounds of fresh produce right here in Southwest Houston, which is, matter of fact, this Saturday coming up. At 6706 West Airport. 6706 West Airport. That's right here at Airport and Fondren, right here in Southwest Houston. Chapel of Restoration, that's the name of the church. It's actually it's had a big, huge parking lot, and we give out over 10,000 pounds of fresh produce. I mean, hundreds of people line up every first Saturday, and they just leave with bags and bags and sacks of. Oh, it's awesome. We started off just on the corner, just giving out clothing and food and stuff like that. It was just like 5 or 6 of us. And that thing just kept growing and growing and growing, and God blessed us to hook up with the food bank. And I tell you, to come out there on a Saturday and see those people in line. Some people get out there at 7 o'clock, stand in line, which really tells me that that there's a need. There's a need. If you're going to stand, the program, it starts at 9, but when people come in 7 o'clock, that tells me that there's a need for this. And so I'm just so honored to be a part of something like that.
And when you said fresh produce, see, that's important because most of the food banks and church pantries, you look at it, they don't have fresh produce.
They don't have fresh produce.
Because for 2 things. They cannot store it.
They can't store it.
And then they get bad and it gets thrown away.
Right. Well, this is fresh.
See, fresh, and
This
then
is fresh.
people are standing in line
Right.
because they need it.
They need it.
So they are there, and then you empty the truck within no time.
We empty the truck, and
It's
it's just a
healthy.
big. It's healthy, very, very much so, with the potatoes and the watermelons and the cucumbers and all, just milk and bread and all kinds of whatever that the truck has. But it's 10,000 pounds of it, and people go and load up their cars and come back and load them up again. but we're helping somebody, and that's just the bottom line. So the Jefferson Award, then I won the Texas Department of Human Service Outstanding Houstonian Award. I won that. That's from working with the people who have disabilities, going into their homes, helping them do things that they can't do for themselves. There's an apartment complex there in Southwest Houston that has about 50 people with disabilities, and for years I used to manage that program. As a matter of fact, after I started volunteering, they actually hired me to manage that whole program. So that's just been a blessing. But I have all sorts of community service awards, so we want to go through all that. But and it's all just about wanting to serve.
That's it.
Wanting to serve. The
A
Bible
servant's
said
heart.
it's a servant's heart. You know, he says what the vineyard is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Few.
I've got so many blessings to give out, but I don't have any workers. Nobody.
Yeah, there's
nobody
so many
wants-
leaders out there, but there's not too many
You
workers.
know, how many people are going to go stand on the corner and say, "Hey, free food"? How many people are going to do that? You know, and so people are telling me, well, you know, like 6 or 7 of you guys. He said, but the laborers are few. He's already told you, don't look for a crowd of people. Don't look for a crowd. It's just a few people that are willing to go out and do the work of the Lord.
See, you know, I don't. You're just an amazing person. I mean, no cliche. My program is amazing, but I cannot find another word. Just an amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And with your talents and your heart for the people of God, I always believe we are God's highest and best creation.
Oh yeah.
Better than the plants, the trees, the animals. And if we cannot love each other and we cannot serve each other, what God are you talking about?
What God are you talking about? Yeah, what God you? And if we don't use any other word, it's that one I heard you say it earlier. Is that word love? How can you love me who you've never seen?
If you
And
cannot love
you can't
my
love
children.
your brother and sister that you see every day. You're turn away from me. I don't even
yeah.
want to look at you.
That's right.
I don't even want to look
So
at you.
don't even do your praise dance.
Don't do any of that.
Don't do any of that if you see somebody in need and you don't do nothing about
And
it.
you don't do nothing about it. Let me tell you this really quick story. I was over off of Founder in West Airport, and I saw this young lady in a wheelchair. She was stuck in a hole, and she couldn't get her chair out of the hole. And I passed by there going to the store, and she was stuck, and she was trying to get up, and people were passing by, and I remember passing by this lady, and I said to myself, I said, Lord, have mercy. The second time I passed by, I saw, Lord, I was sitting at the light, and I said, Lord, have mercy. He said, the Spirit of God spoke to me and said, you are my mercy.
That's right.
You are my mercy. Why are you asking me to have mercy? Get out your car, go over and push her out of the.
You are my
out of
hands and feet.
You are my mercy.
You are my
and
hands
so
and
many
feet.
times we're all about our business. We're Christians.
So busy,
We're just
so
so busy.
busy.
I'm running trying to get to church. He said, "Shh, stop the car. Go push her." So when I did that, I went and pushed the girl out, pulled the chair up out of the hole and pushed it. She looked up at me and started shaking her head like, thank God, because she couldn't
That's
speak. She couldn't speak. But it's just like, oh, she was shaking her head like these people. But just so many times we get so busy just doing everything. This life just got bam, 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 moving. And our blessings are right in front of us. Right in front of us. Have mercy. No, you're my mercy. Go and push her out of the hole. What did I have you there for? What are you doing? Pick up your cross. Follow me. What would I be doing? Would I just pass by her? No, I wouldn't do that. See? And so if we want to say that we're Christians, then we got to live the life of a Christian. We have to.
Yes.
We have
and
to.
you know, if God put somebody in front of you, you're supposed to do something.
You're supposed to help them.
You're supposed to help
You're
them.
supposed to help them.
That is your ministry. You don't need to have all these banners and titles
No.
and all that. You
It
don't.
means nothing. It means nothing because you can't go out. You can't do that if it's not from your heart. It's going to die. I've been doing this outreach ministry for like about 3 years now. 3.5. At one point every Saturday we were going. People were like, huh? I said no, because I'm not doing this for show. If I was, I'd have stopped a long time ago. Because it's not easy for me to get out of my bed at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday to go out and do all this stuff. If I was doing it for show, to carry these 100-pound sacks on my back and all this other stuff, if I was doing it for show, I'd have stopped a long time ago. Take my picture. Okay, bye. I'll see you guys later. Yeah, but because I have a heart for God's people that are in need, I've always had a heart for God's people. Ever since I was a child. My father was a minister, and my mother was a Christian. So, they taught us you have to go out and help others that are less fortunate than you are.
Yeah,
That's where you get your blessings.
I mean, I'm blessed because of that. One of those sayings that God gave me one day was, you are blessed to be a blessing.
There it
And
is.
I never, ever forget that. I had a store in Deerbrook Mall that was doing so bad. And every time I come through that hallway to go to my store, and I said, Lord, I mean, I could work at McDonald's and make more money than this.
Right.
They're paying the
What am I
mall
doing?
rent and everything. And that's when I heard the word of God that said, you're blessed to be a blessing. And I just said, Lord, thank you. I'm able to hire 4 people to work in that store. You know, it's paying their bills for nothing else, but at least it's putting food on those people's
Exactly
plate.
right.
So sometimes you don't understand why
You
you,
don't.
do
don't.
certain things,
You
but
just
there's a
don't.
purpose.
You just don't understand. Sometimes we just don't. You know, I was at a church program the other day, and we were talking about the floods that hit Houston. And I was like, I was telling him, I said, you know, I questioned God, you know, because I saw people coming through the flood, and I'm like, Lord, what about those children? Why? He said, shh, James, be quiet. Sometimes a storm can actually be a blessing.
That's right.
What? And I was like, what do you mean? A storm? People lost everything that they have. And I was reminded of something that someone told me that was in New Orleans from Katrina. He said, James, when I was in that storm, I lost everything I had. He said, but let me tell you, he said, that was the biggest blessing that's ever happened to New Orleans. I'm saying, what do you mean by that?
Even on this stage, I can, off the top of my head, I can name you at least 6, 7 people who've been amazingly blessed. Their talents, their visions, their things that were prophesied over them came to pass because of Katrina.
Because of Katrina. You know, people say, look, I stayed in an apartment for 3 years and didn't have to pay any rent. They gave me all the food I needed. They found me a job. She said, that would have never happened in New Orleans. She said, that was a blessing.
I would be staying in the same old rut, doing the same
but
thing.
God, and look what he's done. You see what I'm saying? So we like, oh my God, that storm. Even through a storm, God says, I can be a blessing.
I can be a blessing. James, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so
much. And I
much.
hope we have more James Hudsons, at least in Houston. That's my city.
All right.
You know, people need people like you. Pulpits are great. I mean, fire, brimstone preachers are wonderful.
Right.
But what touches people, what makes a change in people's life, it is people like you who are able to stop and reach out and pull somebody out.
Thank you so
and
much.
help them.
Bless you.
And you are a living example.
Thank you so much.
And God bless you and
Thank
keep
you.
doing what you are doing.
I will.
And my dear, you know, people who watch this show today, you know, James Hudson is such an encouragement. He could just go on with his playwritings and producing and do what he does. But 7 o'clock every Saturday, he's out there helping people. And that's whatever you have, you may not be gifted and talented, but God has created you for a purpose. God has given you some gifts and talents. Use it and be a blessing and keep walking in the amazing grace of God.